Alex, I feel like this is like the most like normal frum like recording experience. Like I hope that my toddler in the next room is like not going to make too much noise.
Yeah, and I've got a sick one upstairs, so like we're just trying to make this episode happen.
Exactly.
Hi, I'm Alex Fletcher.
And I'm Rivki Silver.
And this is Deep, Meaningful Conversations, powered by Meaningful Minute.
The podcast where we explore the complexities, nuances, and joys of being a frum woman. Welcome back to another episode of Deep, Meaningful Conversations. We are so excited to be talking about a topic near and dear to both of our hearts, and that is creativity in the frum world.
And specifically in the frum female world, hence the title of this episode, Creative Frum Woman.
Yes, exactly. That is right. So, Alex, I consider both of us creative people, each of us in our own ways. Let's talk a little bit about our own creative streaks and how we express it as frum women. And I also want to make sure to talk about the challenges for creative frum women.
I just want to say I'm just so happy we're giving voice to this topic. Ladies, we are here for you.
Yes.
So in terms of my own creativity, I actually come from a creative family, filmmakers, artists. So, you know, it's sort of in my blood. My father's a painter. I have zero painting ability. I am not like crafty in any way, but I see like my creativity being channeled in different ways. So I grew up playing the piano. I always loved drama. I always loved acting. Always did that in, you know, all the plays. I wrote my 12th grade production. I went into teaching as a profession, which I actually find a very creative field.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And sometimes people think it's like early childhood or elementary is like the creative with arts and stuff. And it's like, no, it's, oh yes, it is. But I didn't go into those, you know, those ages. I went into middle school and high school, and it's the creativity of approaching a classroom and trying to make things exciting and not boring and, you know, all
exactly.
of that.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that.
No, it's
it needs acknowledgement.
Yeah. I mean, teaching is a very creative field. And writing, I mean, writing, you know, when I'm sitting down and writing an article, I am in the zone, like any artist who is
trying to create Yesh Ma'ayin.
Yes, trying to create Yesh Ma'ayin. And it's absolutely a creative field. It's, you know, I'm not doing creative writing, but writing itself still is. And I think I've been able to channel over the years, you know, my creativity in just sort of different avenues.
Yeah.
So I know you are highly creative in the traditional sense as a musician and lots of other fun things. So let it roll. Go ahead.
Sure. It's interesting when you're talking about your parents and their creative things. I was laughing about how my parents are they're not in the creative fields at all. Mm-hmm. So I think we had like an inverse like childhood things. Like when I came home, I think in first or second grade with a piece of paper from my school that said that they had done an aptitude test and I was musically gifted. My parents were like, this must have been sent home with the wrong child. My parents, neither of them can carry a tune in the bucket. They were like, this is weird.
Wow.
But to their credit, they were like, well, let's just sign her up for lessons and see if it takes. And, you know, no spoiler alert necessary here. It took. Wow. And I did have musical aptitude. And I went on, you know, through college. I have a degree in clarinet performance. Super practical, I know. But beautiful, like, you know, and getting to play with orchestras and perform solo works was always very... I can't really describe like the power and the incredible emotional feeling of being in a ensemble with like 100 other people creating a piece of music together for an audience. There's something very spiritual about it. But you know, when I became frum, are we talking about challenges yet? I don't even know.
Well, I'm curious, like, you know, obviously now, what do you do with this beautiful talent as a musician?
Right. It definitely was a big adjustment when I became frum because the classical music world has a lot of performances on Shabbos and a lot of like, you know, concerts and venues that are not really open to frum women. And, you know, there's different shilas you could ask about, like, you know, can you play religious music? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's complex. And also I, Baruch Hashem, when my family started, in order to play music on the level that high level that I would want to continue playing at, I had to really practice for hours a day. And like, Baruch Hashem, like it wasn't so possible. And I know that there are musicians who do it. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm saying for me, it was not possible.
Yeah.
And I found myself, and I think this is an experience that many maybe creative frum women feel when they become mothers, because your time is structured very differently, and then you have to find ways to still feed that creative need within yourself while also still taking care of your family. So I have definitely, it has evolved over the years. I have been less focused on music because it hasn't worked for my family, and then my writing opportunities, Baruch Hashem, really have taken off over the past I don't know how many years. And I always joke, like, I can type while my kids are sleeping, but I can't play clarinet while my kids are sleeping. So, like, that was the kind of trade-off. And we'll see. Like, talk to me in 20 years. We'll see where I'm holding.
Yeah. But you do use your musical
I
talents,
do.
right?
I do use it primarily. I play for schools. I play for day schools and, like, high schools for different events. And I'm very satisfied with that.
Great.
And I've, Baruch Hashem, played with a lot of different groups and women in the cities that I've lived in over the years. And it's always been very, very enjoyable. But at the same time, it's never really filled that specific itch to play in an orchestra. And it's interesting because this is the last thing I say and then we'll wrap up. But the
I could hear you talking about this forever.
So I had an experience where I played with the Cleveland Women's Orchestra here in Cleveland. I don't even know if it exists anymore. The pandemic may have, ended it. But I played with it for a couple years, and it was all women. So that was nice for me, just because, like, I don't really, like, I can play with men, but I don't like playing with men, I don't have the Kol Isha thing. But I prefer to make music with women because, like, you really are connecting to people on, like, a fundamental level. And it's my preference. Again, everyone should do what works for them, but this is what works for me.
Right.
And so I was in this women's orchestra, and we're playing, like, Beethoven and Tchaikovsky and, like, all these beautiful, beautiful pieces that I loved. But the thing was, it was, I forgot, I love the music and I love the performance, but, like, all of the interpersonal stuff, it's not a frum thing. So all of the interpersonal challenges were very different, and they felt very foreign. Like, there was a lot of drama and things that I was like, I love the music, but I don't miss this. And it was like, I realized I had this nostalgia for my experience and a nostalgia for the creativity of my past. And that I had been, like, kind of searching for this elusive experience that really didn't need to exist. And when I had that experience, I could let go of it and I could say, no, I am using my abilities in the way that Hashem has given me and in the opportunities that Hashem has given me. And it helped me, like, kind of let go of that little latent frustration that I had that I felt like I wasn't using my gifts. I was like, no, I am using my gifts.
Interesting. And you have to use them in some capacity or else you will feel like a flower without water, right?
Yeah. I'm a much happier wife and mother and community member and friend when I am creating in a way.
And that's very important that we mention that for creative people.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, too bad, there's no opportunity for you to use this. You have to find some way or channel it in some way because it's part of who you are.
Right. It's not just a nice hobby.
It's not a nice hobby, exactly.
And it is harder in smaller communities. I think, like, if you're in Yerushalayim, if you're in LA, New York, maybe Chicago to a degree, there are more people to be able to do creative things with, but sometimes in the smaller communities that can be harder.
And that actually really leads into the challenge that I want to talk about personally, but especially with drama, which is a creative field where, not really many opportunities.
Not outside of high school,
Yeah, high school, yes. Production, and I find, I have an 11th grade daughter, with these productions, some of these girls that didn't even know they could act, get on the stage and, like, blossom. And it's an amazing experience, and it definitely can start, giving them whet their appetite a little bit.
Yeah.
But after that, there's really nothing. If you are in big cities like Yerushalayim and New York, there are sometimes productions.
Amazing
for
productions. What women are doing, it's amazing what they're doing.
But, if you're out of town, you're not going to have that. So again, what do you do? So like for me, I sort of got that kick teaching.
Yeah.
Not that I frontal lecture because, standing on a stage and teaching, that's not what I do. But there is something to be said about sort of having an audience, if you will, the classroom sort of as a stage. Like, it actually gives me that same kind of adrenaline rush as acting.
Yeah.
I like to share just a story. When I was younger, my parents became religious when I was in middle school.
Yeah.
And they signed me up for this drama camp, which was part of the local theater. I forgot what it was called in Atlanta, Georgia. And, we were actually in one of the smaller stages, and we would do skits. And at the end of the summer, they had, their performance, of all these different skits.
Yeah.
So
it sounds fun.
Yeah, it was fun. And it wasn't like, oh, this is the lead role. Everyone had different little parts, in this whole ensemble of all different small skits. Anyway, at the end of it, the director of the program comes up to my parents and he said, your daughter's talented. Like, spying out that talent.
Yeah, that's right.
Similar experience. And he said, we would like to have her join our children's acting troupe. Turns out that the point of this camp, since it was part of the main theater, is to identify children's talent, to then tap into them and use them as the children's actors.
Smart.
Yeah, in the main production. So that means...
Like a pipeline.
It's a pipeline. So, like, the orphans and Annie are going to be tapped into from this group. Okay, fine. My mom never told me about this until years later.
Wow.
But her response to this man was, when our thank you, amazing. When our practices are on Saturday. At this point, my parents were not even fully committed. Shomer Shabbos hadn't moved into the frum community, but were committed to starting to become religious. And she turned around to this man and she said, "I'm sorry, we are Sabbath observant, and my daughter can't participate."
Wow.
Crazy story.
Wow. That is Gevurah. Wow.
It is Gevurah, and as a parent now, I look back at that and I'm like, wow, like you are so strong. You sort of shifted your child's track right then and there, and you weren't even fully religious, but they were so committed. It's just, my mother gets so much credit. I will tell you, I struggled with that a little bit later when I found out. Like, what did you do? Exactly. But
what do you mean? You said no.
What do you mean? Exactly. But again, the point is, how do you use that? Listen, we're podcasting. It also is a creative endeavor.
Absolutely.
Anyway, today we're going to be talking with two creative frum women, Bracha Getz and Devorah Rhodes. Amazing, normal frum women. Bracha's written 40 children's books.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're not in the book writing business. We're writers, but this is writing children's books requires tremendous creativity. She's also written a memoir recently for adults about her journey overcoming food addictions and becoming religious. So it's really fascinating. And I think, we appreciate writing as a creative art form. And we are so excited to be talking to her about this on the podcast.
Yes. And Devorah Rhodes is a very talented painter who started selling her paintings in high school.
Yeah.
Wow. Today she has her own business, Devora Rhodes Collection. She sells originals and prints of her beautiful Judaica-themed artwork. And she does not only just do Judaica-themed, she said.
Yeah, she's really beautiful. Check out the show notes to see a link to her work.
Yeah.
So by the end of today's episode, we really hope you will have gotten a glimpse into the blessings and challenges of being a creative in the frum world. And maybe a little spark of inspiration, too, to pursue your own creative talents.
Yes. So with that, we bring you our interview with Bracha Getz. Hi, Bracha.
Hi.
We're so excited to have you.
Thank you.
I'm a big fan of your books. I'm a huge fan in general of your work. And why don't you just tell us and all of our listeners about how you got started in your field and what made you pursue your creative talent?
Okay. I would say that I try to write the books I wish that I had as a child. I wasn't brought up in a spiritual kind of way. And as a teen, I started searching for spirituality. I went through a lot of painful years until I found it, until I found what really nourished my own soul. And it was amazing that it was within my own heritage, because I was looking into all different religions and social justice movements, environmentalism, everything. I mean, I was trying out and experimenting with. So I try to write the books where children could know right from the beginning of their lives that they're spiritual beings. Like, I write deep books in a very simple way, about deep concepts in a simple way. That's what I love to do. And people think it's funny that I went to Harvard and I don't write these real intellectual kind of things. That doesn't interest me. What interests me is taking the deep concepts and distilling the essence of what the concept is about, getting it down to the most simplest form possible.
Absolutely. And that actually is a very complicated thing to do. That takes a lot of brain power to be able to take complex concepts and distill them. So, people should realize that.
Yeah.
It's a joy. It's what comes naturally to me, because I still think like a child in many ways. Like, I have that sense of wonder about life that I hope I'll always have. And that's what I try to give over.
So what are some of the topics? Like, what are your favorite topics that you've addressed in your children's books?
Okay, well, right now, I mean, my newest book is Let's Stay Healthy. Oh, since we're on video, I could hold it up. Wait a minute. I should bring them right out. Okay, here we go. No, Let's Stay Healthy. This book, what's different about this book is when I wrote it, there was a parent that called me and she said, please write a book about how our children can be healthy.
Beautiful.
About eating healthy, about exercise, about hygiene, about sleep, all the different things that you need to keep your immune system strong, which of course, during the pandemic is more important than ever. I mean, for people to realize what the difference is between people that have strong immune systems and those that don't, it's become very obvious now. So if children can get on the path early, this is designed especially for Orthodox children, but we're going to have a book for everybody as well. This book, and you can see like we did it like baseball caps, like the pictures will be able to remain the same and everything, so that everybody could read it with the same illustrations. We're just going to be changing some of the words. But what happened with this book, when I wrote it, my children said, please don't send this to a publisher. My youngest children decided that they wanted to be the publisher. So they opened a publishing company, and this is their first book. They opened the Goetz bookshop, and this is what they're publishing my books now. That's what they want to do.
Nachas. Wow.
Yeah, well, my youngest son is a Rebbe, and he could use, an extra income of doing something on the side. So now he's also having this publishing company. And that's what this book is about. This is a topic that I feel so strongly about. And we really need a lot of work in our communities, that in order to get children eating healthy from the very beginning, like even in the school system, they give out junk food in our private schools as prizes. Yeah. I have one grandson, his Rebbe gave out masking tape. Could you imagine? The boys were so thrilled to get masking tape, and he gave out different colored masking tape, and he taught them how to make sculptures, and they made the most incredible sculptures. My grandson has the Empire State Building. He has the Beis Hamikdash. He's got like a whole amusement park that he created out of masking tape. I mean, wow. So the boys love it. So I just want to show the possibility. It doesn't have to be junk food. And there's so many ways to give rewards to children. And the earlier we do this for our children, the healthier lives, God willing, they can be blessed with.
Oh, yeah. I love the masking tape over the caffeinated soda. Let's go. Get it from the dollar store. It's cheap. Okay. So we're curious if you face any challenges embarking on your writing career.
Yeah. So this is also very timely. When I wrote Let's Stay Safe, I wrote the first manuscript for it in 2007. It wasn't published until 2011. I went to every publishing company, all the Orthodox publishing companies, and it was rejected by all of them until I got Rabbi Yaakov Horowitz on my side, pushing it through. And that's how it finally got published by ArtScroll. And years later, I got it's now called Let's Talk About Personal Privacy, which is just focusing on the subject of personal privacy and teaching children how to be proactive against abuse. And this was really a challenge to get these things published.
How many years ago was that?
So I wrote the first manuscript in 2007. Wow. Kept getting no's and a lot of argument. I wrote articles for magazines. They weren't ready for it yet then. In 2011, Rabbi Horowitz was able to get it published, thank God. So that was, and then I think it was 2014 that the book specifically on personal privacy came out. You see, the Let's Stay Safe book, it was just one normative measure that was put inside a safety book about all other types of safety measures. And that was the way that we got it through. But now the personal privacy book was just focused on that topic. So it's a different kind of book, but it's also on that very important topic. So that was a huge challenge. And believe me, this is also a challenge. Now, to get everybody thinking in a healthy way, and believe it or not, this is another struggle. It is, and I'm totally up for it. And I use the example of how things have changed because of the publication of Let's Stay Safe and the personal privacy books to give us hope that we can also change everybody to eating in a more healthier lifestyle as well. My background really is in public health. So I love doing these books that help to change the community in a positive way.
Wow.
Toward, yeah.
You had backlash here for eating healthy?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a lot of backlash right now. There's this body positive movement, which I think is wonderful for sure. But like, I agree with that. But there, people are saying to me, it's wrong to call certain food junk food. Don't give it a bad name. And I explained to them, this is amazing. The junk food actually has more in common with things like cigarettes than it does with an apple. It has more in common. It's the junk food is not designed by our creator. It's designed by companies out of greed to be delicious and addictive, while the natural foods are designed to be delicious and nutritious, completely different. They're almost like different substances. And when the public health campaigns were very effective and smoking went way down, the executives started to lose money. And I just learned this recently. They went into the fast food business in the 1980s. And that's when fast food took over. And that's how the junk food industry got so gigantic. So that's why it's really designed to be addictive. That food is not helpful to us. We wouldn't water our plants with soda, and yet we give it to our children as reinforcements for learning Torah. It makes no sense, really.
Right. I remember seeing once like a video that showed like all the different things you can do with like a specific soda, and all the, like, you can like clean your car engine or something. I never tried it, so I don't know. But yes, everything that you're saying really resonates. So I'm wondering, do you view your creative talent, this ability to take like these public policy, public health ideas and concepts, and these beautiful desires to improve our community and to improve everyone's lives to the positive? You have this incredible koyach from Hashem to be able to write and to convey these things in a way that people can then contemplate the concepts and hopefully integrate it into their own lives. Do you view your creative talent as a gift from Hashem, or maybe also sometimes as a challenge, or both? I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's totally a gift. Like, for instance, when this mother called me begging me to write the book about eating healthy, I said, that's a great idea, but I don't know how to do it. So I went to sleep. I wake up a couple of days later with the title, the whole way to write the book, everything. And I keep a pad next to my bed and I scribble it down while I'm in the dark. I'm scribbling this, not to wake up my husband, and I wake up and I've got the whole book basically done. Wow. And that is how it works. When Hashem wants me to write the book, it just happens. And I'm so grateful. It's like channels. And when I speak at schools, I explain to children, it's like rain coming down from Hashem into our brains. We just have to be open to the gifts, and they're there. And another book I wrote, I have that, let me see, I have this, Let's Appreciate Everyone, is about teaching children about disabilities. So when one of my granddaughters was born with severe disabilities, people started saying to me, now you're going to write a book about disabilities. And I said, I would love to, but I'm not an expert. I don't know what to write. So that Shabbos, I read an article in our community paper, and it was a wonderful article by Yael Zellinger. She wrote about the workshop she was giving to teach children in classrooms about disabilities. I called her up and I said, can I make these workshops into a picture book so everybody can understand these concepts? And that's it. You know, Hashem just opens my eyes to get the information that's needed to be presented. And that's how it works. Yeah.
The timing, like real siyata d'shmaya with that story.
But Hashem opens your eyes when you're looking for something. You know what I mean? The wisdom is there to find. Exactly. Right.
No, I love the idea of like being a conduit, basically. You're being a conduit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hashem wants it to happen. He's going to open doors for you.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So we're curious, you know, in many creative fields, like let's say, you know, performing arts, you could see that might pose a challenge to someone's values as a frum woman. Have you ever had that experience in the field of writing?
Not really. Well, for instance, my name was taken off the Let's Stay Safe book. People were afraid that I would get backlash when it was published. I didn't want my name taken off of it, but that was out of my control. So I guess that's an example of where people didn't think it was appropriate to have my name on the book. I wasn't the least bit afraid, but at the time, that's what happened. So that's an example. But in general, as a writer, you know, it's not such a problem. But I do get censored when the frum community is not ready to publish certain articles, and they just don't publish them. Yeah. It doesn't happen. You know, it happens when the community's ready.
Wow. Yeah. It sounds like you're willing to work with that.
Yeah, I try my hardest, and I try different ways, you know, and I try to say things very softly and gently and joyfully to get the message out is the main thing. Yeah.
Beautiful. And I guess like you just, you know, you've had a long and storied career so far, you know, continue to be productive. But I was thinking like you probably have the benefit of having the patience to see like, oh, they're not ready, but now they are. So you have that advantage of experience and seeing like that sometimes you just have to wait a little bit.
I saw it happen. Exactly. That's a big blessing in my life. So I give other people encouragement for the same reason.
Because you could decide
and sometimes exactly. And sometimes you need support. And I tell people, you don't know how many times people contact me every week. This was rejected from this. What should I do? And I just say, just keep trying. Whenever I get a rejection, I send something out that same day. You just got to keep going. Don't give up. You may need to change it a little, tweak it somewhat, but just keep trying, because it you know, things aren't always easy, but just keep working at it. If you believe in something, because I'm a very I'm a very message oriented person. Once someone interviewed me, they said, tell us about your character development or your plot development. I said, there's hardly any of either one in my books. You know, my books are about the message. I just try to figure out how to express that message in a way that people can absorb it.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. So based on your knowledge and your experience, do you think that creative fields are like a viable career choice for frum women?
Yeah, it's exploded. It has exploded since I started. I mean, my first book was the Itchy Shabbos, then there was the Happiness Box. I mean, these are really, so that like the grandparents that were reading it as children are reading it to their grandchildren now. So there was so few books once upon a time. Now creativity is exploding in every way. And for women, there are so many more opportunities because there are so many more frum women now too. I mean, and creative women, and because also so many of us as Baalei Tshuva who had a background of you know, high education, that we can now use those skills to help the frum community on a very high level to do creative endeavors. Yeah.
I mean, you know, Rifki and I consider ourselves creative both in different ways. And this has just been really an inspiration for us personally. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. My pleasure.
And now it's time for our interview with Devorah Rhodes. Hey, Devorah, welcome. We are so excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I just love that you're sitting in front of one of your paintings.
Thank you so much.
So gorgeous. Yeah.
Beautiful.
This was intentional.
Yeah.
We applaud the intention.
Of course. Okay. So we want to hear from you how you got started painting. I mean, clearly you have a talent. When did you figure out that you could paint? How did that develop? And also, like, how did you decide to turn this into a business?
So most of that's by accident. Everything you said. My mother and my parents get a lot of credit. I started painting in 8th grade. I was like always enjoyed arts and crafts. So like, I'd always get like, sets of markers when I was like 6, that kind of thing. But then when I was in 8th grade, where I grew up in Vancouver, you start high school in 8th grade. So there was like a 8th grade after school painting program. And there was a woman in the community, Sue Emanuel, who ran it. And I had a really good time and showed my mother that I'm really artistic and just, like, I don't know if it was real or not, but like, that I was really good. And my mother was like, okay, perfect. So first half of the summer, you'll go to camp. And then second half of the summer, between 8th and 9th grade, she got me this like 5 by 3 foot canvas. And she's like, you'll just paint it. And that will be your activity for the second half of the summer. So I just spent like the summer painting on it. And it was much cheaper than going to camp second half, I'm saying.
100%.
So
you didn't
so
like
fun.
fight your mom on this? Like, you giving me a blank canvas to work on, a blank canvas to work on for 3 weeks?
I was so excited. I was like, I'm going to paint this. It's huge. Like, it was taller than me at that point. Like,
wow.
That's so cool.
So, it was so cool. So then I did it and it was good. So then I got another one, like a 6 by 4 foot canvas, like 2 6 by 4 foot canvases, painted those. And then I guess I just got better. And then by Sukkot's time in 9th grade, a family friend was going away and they said, pay for your supplies and like another $100 for you if you paint us a painting of the kotel that we give to someone as like a Yontif present. So I was in 9th grade, 6 by 4 foot kotel, $100. I think it was 150. I think it was 300 total, 150 for supplies and 150 profit. And then I made it for them. And then someone heard that I sold this painting. And then someone else was like, oh, I heard you made this painting. Would you make one for me? And then someone else saw it in her house. And then someone saw it in her house. And then
and so on.
I was in high school selling paintings by accident. And I didn't start with like small ones. They were like this size. Like this is even smaller than the first one I made. This is 4 by 5 feet. The one that I did was 4 by 6. So it was another foot that way. But I'm saying that's just what happened. I did like a couple of shows randomly, like smaller ones, like part of like the Chabad did a wine and cheese night and a couple of like those kind of shows. And then when I moved to Brooklyn, I moved to Brooklyn for 11th and 12th grade with my family, continued to sell there. And I kind of started picking up more and more. I guess once you're near more from people, it does better. And then I did my own show in 12th grade. And then I graduated and I was like, you know what? I think I really want to try to do this. So yeah.
Okay.
That's beautiful.
Now you have a website. So how did that then transfer to like this official business?
Okay. So I was doing mostly word of mouth. Like I didn't advertise much. It was mainly through word of mouth. And then I made a website. I think I got married right after high school. So that when I was like, okay, I really need to make this into a business and I have to start right now. So the year after 12th grade.
Nothing like pressure, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to be an OT and I have to paint. So then I did the year after seminar. I made a website and I started advertising more and treating it more seriously, with logs and expenses and income and being more on top of it as an actual business. But I still do it on the side. I'm saying it's still not my full-time job, but it's definitely my evening free time job.
Beautiful. What do you do during the day?
So during the day, I teach 7th grade Kodesh.
You're a creative lady.
Nice.
We talked about this. You're creative.
We talked about this.
And
teaching requires a lot of creative force. Teaching.
Yeah, and I love it, and it's fun. It's a lot of people person. So like being all day, I think home alone painting would be a little hard for me.
Yeah.
So I get out, and then I come home, and then I paint.
Oh, it's like the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So it sounds, when you're describing it, it does sound like a fairly smooth trajectory from like point A to point B. Were there any challenges that you faced when you were embarking on this path, as it was, I guess almost like happening to you? What were some of the challenges that came up?
Right. So some of the challenges I didn't have because it's not like my sole parnasa, which I couldn't be. Like right now, my husband's in Colo, so I have to like have a certain amount of a steady income.
Yeah.
So there is less pressure on me where it's like the challenges come up where I don't make as much one month, and then it's like, okay, because I have a steady income also.
Yeah.
So a lot of the hardship I don't have to the same extent, but there definitely is like that initial panic though, because I really am not. I didn't get a degree. I'm finishing it actually now, but I didn't go the regular route career wise.
Yeah.
And I think the hardest thing for me was just after I'd hang out, especially like right when I got married, I'd hang out with a bunch of women who were like talking about their job at nursing and then this OT, and then they're finishing their speech degree here. And then they're like, I'm like, I have no idea what any of you are talking about. I don't know how many credits you need to graduate. I don't know, like, and they're all talking about the like very classic jobs. And I'm like, I'm just painting. I don't know. Like I teach, I paint, I do paint. I also did some paint parties. Like I just like the not doing what everyone else is doing is scary, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
So that I think that's the hardest part. Just also it's not fun feeling different. Sometimes it's fun, but for the most part, if you're actually different, you don't enjoy feeling different. You just want to be different part of the group.
Right. You
You
don't
know,
want to be
like-
defined by the difference.
Right. Like I also work, I don't know. But it's just I don't know how
I'm
to
sure they all
explain
love
that
you.
feeling. No, this thing, it's great. Everyone's so cool that you do that. But there's like that initial feeling of panic when everyone's talking and you're like, I'm not doing what any of you are doing.
Yeah.
Right. And you're like, what do I contribute to this conversation? Just sitting there like, with a smiling face, but
Right.
yeah.
And it's like no clear outlined path of what you should be doing. And it's all up to you. Like,
Yeah.
I'm tired, but if I don't do it, it's not happening.
Right. So it's not like where you're clocking in and you're clocking out. There's an actual finished
Right.
project at the end of it, a finished product that either you're doing it or it's not getting done,
Exactly.
But I'm sure you can't see life any other way, right?
Oh, no, I really don't. Like, it was not an option to like become a speech therapist. Or like, I happen to have, I loved learning. I hated school. Like when I went back to college, I actually felt myself like panicking, thinking of doing schoolwork. And I was like, I'm doing it, but no, like there was no way that I was going to do like a regular, go to seminary, go to college, get your degree and whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I never thought that I would do that, and I never would work.
Well, it's good that you had clarity on that. Yeah.
Tell me, did you, it's interesting. I'm just wondering if you've ever had an experience where your values were challenged in this creative field.
Definitely there's been a lot of conversation about specifically like social media type of challenges. Or like even when I was picking my name, like my name is Devora Rhodes Collection. And initially I had went through a couple months where I called it like World of Color. Cause I was like, I don't know if I want to put my name. Is it SNES? Like,
Right.
But then I was like, no, because you don't want to buy art from a brand. You want to buy art from an artist.
True.
And I was like,
Yeah.
you need
I'm so
the name.
glad you came to that realization. You have to own it.
Yes. I was like, no, you need to do a name. I did the name. And we thought about it. It was like a conversation. And we really thought about like, is it SNES? Is it not SNES? But like, okay, it's fine. But when it comes to, let's say, like more like Instagram of posting, like there's definitely been a lot of conversation of where I want to draw my line of what I'm comfortable with. And do I want to show my face? Do I want to just speak, or do I not even want to speak? How much of my process or life am I going to show? Is it just going to be solely art? So that's like obviously so complicated.
Yeah.
And it's really like a big decision. And that was very hard to like figure that balance out, which I ended up kind of going more safe than sorry. Also, because I find that so hard to not have the time. Like it's a big time
Sucker.
sucker. It's really what it is. It is like like only at night after 7 when my kids are asleep to this time, and then I have to do all my other work. It's like I'm not on top of my life enough to be that scheduled. It would be all the time or none of the time, or not, or maybe a little bit better, but it's not my strength of like balancing that well.
So you build your brand because that's what you have to do, but you've set boundaries in terms of how you feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah. So a lot of like, I have filters and time locks, and I only post specific things like about my art that are like only, I don't show my face, I don't show my voice, and I don't even talk even. And then um, I only show like my painting. So I'll do like even time lapses. I was debating because I did some where you could see like me from the back. And I ended up, I'm not saying I'm committing, but I'm stopped doing those now. I just do like, when you zoom up on the hand. So it's just hands
Yeah.
as opposed to even like me from the back.
Right.
Because like I wasn't sure. I'm still figuring it out. I don't have it. Like I'm not pretending like I figured it out yet at all.
No, and I think that it is an evolving process. And as social media itself as a form of advertisement also is evolving, it's very different than it was 5 years ago. And I'm sure in 5 years, it'll also be different, so we have to adjust as we go with our team, whoever we're getting Eitzah from.
For sure. And also my audience is very mixed, which is different than some people. Like when we were just talking, like the singers or with other people, if your audience is mainly women, it's different. Like it's 50-50 because it's art.
Right.
So
yeah,
that also is like, I have to figure that out. So
it's a lot. It's a lot to navigate.
Yeah, it's very overwhelming. Like the balance. It's like always an endless conversation. You feel like you're still getting nowhere.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're still selling pizzas.
Yeah, Baruch Hashem.
Yeah, so Baruch Hashem, it's still working.
Yeah. It's whatever you're doing great.
So do you view your gift as like just your gift, your talent, your creativity? It is a gift. Do you view it primarily as a gift? Do you also see it as, in a way, a challenge? Like you mentioned before, like, that it can set you apart from your group of friends. So besides that challenge, are there any other challenges, or do you view it primarily as a gift?
So I view it primarily as a gift. I really like it. Like I mean, it's not just like a gift, it's something I really like to do. Yeah. So like for me, it's like fun. Also, I do like, it comes into my house a lot, the way I like set my table. Like I'm a lot of fun setting my table for Yantif and Shabbos. Nice. I like cooking and, decorating my own home. And like, I don't know if you could see like this frum shelf over here is like, I made out of like cinder blocks and wood, like stacked.
Wow. You
Cool.
made it?
It's like, yeah, like
I got
cinder blocks, raw wood, and then that small one I put in because we're out of space. But I just found 4 more cinder blocks that are the right thing, so I can make another
beautiful
level. But like I really enjoy every aspect of it. I really like, it makes me happy to incorporate it into many aspects of my life, and it kind of just comes out because that's what I'm like. I do think it is hard sometimes. That's the only challenge would be really like when you feel like you're speaking a slightly different language than the people around you.
Yeah.
Or like,
I do know. Yeah.
Create that is
so like, it's so cool that you're doing that. Like, no, it's not. You're also doing something cool. I'm also doing something cool. We're all doing cool things.
Yeah. Just this is my flavor and you have your flavor. We all have our own flavors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you do things that blow my mind. So like, it's different, but I can't imagine being any other way. And I like the challenges that come up with it, I guess, like, I don't know if this is real, but like, a little more absent-minded or like less detail oriented. Those I've just been working on, but I don't know if that's because of my creativity or just those are my natural flaws as a person. But I think they go hand in hand with creative people. So
oftentimes they really do. Yeah. It's pretty frequent. Yeah.
Right. So a lot of slow working on changing behaviors and trying to curb the negative sides of the creative mind. But overall, like I would never want to not, be the way I am. I think it's much more fun.
Yeah.
And colorful. I'm like,
it's much more colorful.
Yeah.
Okay. So the last question for today, we'd really like to hear from you. First of all, you work with students, teenagers, right?
Yes, I do.
I
teach high school art once an afternoon also.
Oh.
I used to do middle school. I just stopped middle school. So now I just do high school, one afternoon a week, art, and then in 7th grade, Kodesh, which is 12, 13-year-olds.
Nice.
Okay, so I really would like to hear, from your experience and also working with teens, do you think pursuing creative fields is a viable career choice for young women?
I think it really depends how much money your parents have and your husband is making.
Ooh. I'm so glad you said that. Yeah.
It depends. Like I currently have 3 jobs. I'm saying I teach in 2 different, I teach in the morning, I teach in the afternoon, and then I paint at night. And I do like commissions, prints, paint nights, all that kind of thing. There's no way that I'd be able to support my family and my kids on my art business alone.
Starving artists.
Yeah.
I if we were starving, I'm saying, I don't know, like I said, if we paid some, like it would not work.
No, I mean,
At
that's
all.
the field, unless you're like,
Really
really,
successful.
really up there. Right. That's the nature of the field.
So yeah, like I don't know many people like that I've spoken to that are creative. Like I'm saying, if you're really starting your own business as something like to make it enough to support someone on your own, a family on your own, I haven't seen many people that are able to do it. And I'm saying that nicely because I don't really know anyone,
Mm.
but it's definitely a very good second. If you have two incomes, it's very doable. If it's side money, you don't need it. Or you could do it on the side. Like I know everyone used to listen to all these business podcasts and they're like, you just have to quit your job and go for it. And I'm like, right, or not.
Or not.
Because like who actually is paying my rent?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
and who's feeding and clothing my kids?
And like
Yeah.
we're from women. So realistically speaking, if you have a couple of kids, tuition is like $40,000.
Yeah.
So that's just tuition.
Yeah.
So
You need
like
dual
it's
income.
not I mean, from my personal experience, it's amazing side income if you're doing it well. And I guess it really depends on your spouse, if they're working, if they're not working, if you like yeah.
Yeah.
So not fully, but very good for you and fun and hopefully you can make it into that. But to start off saying like this is my plan, I mean
Yeah.
Right,
Don't rely on
It's
it.
not so simple.
no.
I just gotta check this camera.
I don't know if that's a bad answer. I feel like I should be like, yes, go do it. But it's I just don't see it.
No, you have to be realistic. So, my father went to art school. He's a painter. And what he ended up doing was using those talents, and he went into advertising. He became an art director. And that could be an option, like take the talent, use it in a more business-like setting. But being an art director in an advertising agency is not the most friendly kind of job,
My parents told me there was no way I could go to art school. They were like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, no,
a
yeah,
single
sure not.
18-year-old
sure
girl,
not.
you are not going to art school.
Yeah.
So it's really
Absolutely
tricky.
not. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that there are ways to pivot and use creative abilities in a economically viable way, but then there's 100% going to be,
Yeah, trade-off.
100%. It's not so simple.
For sure. Also, I found like the somewhat creative jobs were like not the fun part of creativity. Like I was like, you should do art therapy. Like there's very little, it has the word art in it. So I hear where you made the connection. But like there's very little art in art therapy. Like you don't need to be like, I don't want to sit like I was gonna do middle school art. I loved it. I didn't like the younger grades. I'm like, I'm not an arts and crafts teacher.
Right.
Which is fun potentially, but it wasn't feeling that I want to paint, I want to create something real. It was fun because it was art, but it wasn't what I wanted to do art. It just also was art.
Right.
Like, so I was like, if I'm doing a real job, I'd rather do a real different job that uses other talents that I have. And then when I'm doing my art, really do it the way I want to do it, as opposed to having to settle for something that barely used any of it. And most of it I still didn't like. I don't know if that's clear, but I was like,
Yeah, no,
art
it makes
therapy or
perfect sense.
something else. I was like, I'd rather just do my own business and then get a different job.
Yeah.
But you
Very
could do that. I
pragmatic.
know people that have done stuff like that where they were able to, like, I know someone was just telling me they're museum curator.
Wow.
That is really cool. I actually considered that for a minute, but I thought the school would be too hard.
Yeah.
I'm saying art degrees and
It's like an art history major kind of
Right,
thing.
it's a whole thing.
Yeah, very
I mean,
technical.
I just have to say that I really applaud that after teaching multiple jobs, that you still have the kayak to be
Yeah.
able to paint at night. I feel like that's really inspiring, actually.
It's not every night.
Okay, but not every night. Some nights that you still are doing it bichlal.
Well, again, I like it, so it's relaxing for me. Like I was sick, I took a day off, but I wasn't sick enough. Like I can't be in bed all day. What am I gonna do? So I just like set up. My husband helped me like schlep my easel and my canvases, and I just spent half the day sleeping in bed, and then the other half I painted. But that was like relaxing for me, and it was
Yeah.
soothing, and it was like rejuvenating.
Yeah.
But I like it, so it's not hard.
Beautiful. Well, Devorah, this has been just a fantastic conversation. And we really, really, really thank you for coming on today and sharing your experience and your perspective. And I think our listeners are all going to just love this.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so nice. I was listening to all your podcasts before, like trying to do all my research. And I'm so excited. I'm like, I can't believe I'm going to be on it, but I'm really excited that I got to listen to everybody else before this because I'm doing this podcast.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, so now it's time for today's takeaway. And we would really like you to think about the creative talents that Hashem has given you, because Hashem has given all of us creativity in one form or the other.
Yes.
And, you know, some of you may have obvious creative talents in the arts. Some people like to dance, to sing, to act, cook, bake, decorate, you know, design, and create.
Right. And the truth is, even if we don't have gifts in the area that are traditionally considered creative, we're all creative humans. Like, look out for all the ways that you're creative in your daily life, whether it's at work or it's at home, if it's how you organize your house, if it's how you approach dinner. There's many different ways to be creative. So just keep your eye open for that.
Great.
Now it's time for today's 5 questions. Answering our questions is Elena Tal, a professional singer from Baltimore, Maryland.
If you can be any month in the Jewish year, which month would you be and why?
Well, I guess if I had to choose, I would be the month of Adar for a few different reasons. For one, I love this time of year. The flowers are beginning to blossom and bloom, and the leaves are growing back on the trees, at least where I live, on the East Coast. But on a deeper spiritual level, I find the Purim story really, really powerful. And especially as a Jewish woman, to have a role model like Queen Esther, such a beautiful, wonderful woman who chose to save the Jewish people over saving herself. And I feel that we can all learn something from her. And it makes this month very special for me. And I was also married in this month. So,
what's your favorite mitzvah and why?
So my favorite mitzvah, there's so many, but I guess I would have to say Hafrashas Challah is mine. Not only is it a beautiful mitzvah for women, but I actually have a personal story tied to it. When I was in labor with my second child, my daughter, it was very risky, and we didn't know exactly how the delivery situation would turn out. And I was davening very hard. We were all davening and saying Tehillim. And at the end of my time in labor, almost right before the doctor came in, I just said my own tefillah to Hashem, and I was, just davening so hard that everything would be easy and healthy, and a healthy baby, and that I really wanted to experience, a natural delivery without any complications. And I took on that, to show Hashem that I really wanted that I would take on the mitzvah of separating challah. And from then on, we would have freshly baked challah every Shabbos for my family. And the doctor came right into the labor and delivery room, and he said, "I think you're ready, and I think it's going to be okay." And Baruch Hashem, everything was okay. My daughter was born, and Baruch Hashem, no complications. And right after she was born, I turned to my husband and I said, "All right, I guess we're having freshly baked challah every Shabbos." So,
what do you do to recharge?
So in order to recharge and re-energize myself, I would have to say I exercise. I don't particularly like exercising, but I do it a few times a week. And I just find that I feel so much more grounded and energized and relaxed and just lighter and happier. So that's what I do. And I either will go on my elliptical machine or go jogging. And I really don't enjoy the actual process but I definitely enjoy the feeling afterwards. So I keep at it, and it makes me feel better.
What do you love about yourself?
I guess what I've been told is that I'm a positive person, and I like to bring out positivity in other people. And I'm happy when I feel that, people are happy around me. So I guess that's something that I find in my personality, that to try to emit positivity and to invoke happiness in others. I try.
What do you think the frum world needs more of?
Being a Balas Tshuva, I can really compare both worlds, the frum world and the non-frum world, because I lived in one and now I'm in another, Baruch Hashem. And I know a lot of people criticize aspects of the frum world, but I just see such benefit and so many more positives than negatives in that world. So, when people do criticize different parts of from life, I always, compare that to my experience in the secular world, and whatever is wrong in this world, it's 10 times worse, even more, so in the other world. So what do I think the frum world needs more of? Maybe some reassurance that to people who have questions, that this is right, that this is okay, and that it's not a utopia, but that it is so beautiful, and that with proper guidance and role models, that to just spread that awareness to people, that it's okay for things to go wrong. Nothing's perfect, but take it from me, this is such a better life in all areas.
Well, you made it to the end of another episode of Deep Meaningful Conversations. Thank you so much for joining us for the whole thing. Rivki and I would really appreciate if you would take the time to rate and review our podcast. Don't forget that all links and references you can find to this episode on the episode notes. And of course, don't forget to check out our podcast on the Meaningful Minute app.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or just want to say hi, you can email us at dmc@meaningfulminute.org. And we can be found on Instagram, Facebook, and to a lesser degree, Twitter. See you next episode.